That breaking news tonight, protests escalating in Los Angeles. New video shows the protests continuing into the night. You can see a fire burning there in a street. Police have now declared this an unlawful assembly, and they're ordering people to leave immediately. Thousands of people have been out in the streets and even a highway in response to recent immigration raids across the city. And now they're also protesting President Donald Trump's highly unusual decision to deploy National Guard troops. Law enforcement used tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbangs to control the crowds today.
What we're seeing in L.A. is chaos caused by the administration.
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us here for our News at 10. I'm Edie Lambert. Tonight, we're learning that 3 officers have been hurt in the protests and dozens of people are under arrest. The police chief called for the protesters to demonstrate peacefully, as he said they did for the first 2 days.
In recent days, many protests across the city have been peaceful, and we thank the community for expressing their views and their frustration in a responsible manner. However, when peaceful demonstrations devolve into acts of vandalism or violence, especially violence directed at innocent people, law enforcement officers, and others, we must respond firmly. An act of violence, whether toward officers, demonstrators, or the public, will be met with swift and lawful action.
He went on to say that it appears those escalating the violence are the same anarchists who joined many protests, and he said his department has been overwhelmed.
This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you.
One of those arrested today had rammed a motorcycle into an officer, hurting them. That's video of that attack. LAPD says there have been other instances of people throwing Molotov cocktails. As you heard from the chief, also fireworks and electric scooters thrown at officers. Another person now in detention is prominent union leader David Huerta, who's been in custody since Friday. Federal agents say he tried to interfere with their access to a work site. His union says he was only trying to document one of the ICE raids. And today his union, SEIU, issued new calls to demand his release. The use of the National Guard right now is highly unusual. It appears to be the first time in decades that the state's National Guard has been activated without a request from its governor. And Governor Gavin Newsom is pushing back. He's in Southern California right now. His office sharing this photo showing him meeting with LA law enforcement and state emergency officials. And here's part of what emergency crews have been dealing with. Protesters set fire to at least 5 self-driving Waymo cars, sending large plumes of black smoke into the sky. For now, Waymo has stopped service in downtown LA. And we should also mention the demonstrations have disrupted public transit, with downtown train service and bus lines either stopped or rerouted. We now know that at least 17 people were arrested when protesters briefly shut down Highway 101. That's video from above. This shows CHP officers moving those protesters out of the lanes of traffic. But before that, people were walking on the freeway, bringing traffic to a complete standstill. The freeway has since reopened. State leaders from the Sacramento area are among those reacting to the ICE protests in Los Angeles. Many of them are focused on President Trump's deployment of the National Guard. KCRA 3's Andres Valle spoke to some of them, and he joins us now from our newsroom with the details. Andres?
Well, Edie, President Donald Trump ordered 2,000 National Guard troops to the area to help control the situation, a move that Governor Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass are calling unnecessary. Now, other state leaders are also chiming in. Protests in Los Angeles over recent immigration raids continue to escalate as some protesters clash with law enforcement. The National Guard's stepping in to help control the situation.
The president is the commander-in-chief, and he made the decision that he needed to protect the safety of the federal officials as well as citizens in Los Angeles.
The White House deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen to help local authorities. The last time the National Guard was federalized in L.A. was in 1992 during the Rodney King riots.
We do not need to have our city under siege. I remember the last time federal troops were on the ground here, and it was in 1992 when there was massive civil unrest. Nothing like that is happening here, so there is no need for there to be federal troops on our ground right now.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass calling the deployment intentional chaos.
It just seems like this is intentional chaos. You know, I had talked to representatives of the Trump administration earlier on to tell them that the Los Angeles Police Department could control things that were happening here.
Rockland Congressman Kevin Kiley siding with the president and is calling out Governor Gavin Newsom and the mayor for their pushback.
It's unfortunate that the likes of Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass have engaged in inflammatory rhetoric that has actually, in many ways, put people at risk.
It is most important that everybody be allowed to exercise their First Amendment right, but it absolutely has to be done peacefully.
Kiley echoing those same remarks.
There's absolutely a right to protest, to make your voice heard, to express your view as to what government policy ought to be. But there is not a right to engage in violence.
Now, we also reached out to Elk Grove Congressman Ami Bera tonight. His team told us he was unavailable for an interview, but did send us this statement. President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard to Los Angeles without Governor Newsom's consent is a dangerous escalation. This is not about restoring order. It is about the administration seeking to inflame tensions and provoke violence from protesters to justify further crackdowns. Reporting live here in the newsroom, I'm Andres Valle, KCRA 3 News.
Andres, thank you. To give you more perspective about how unusual this is, the last time the National Guard was activated without a governor's permission was back in 1965. That was when President Lyndon B. Johnson sent troops to protect a civil rights march in Alabama. That's according to the Brennan Center for Justice. And a protest that began peacefully in San Francisco escalated earlier tonight. Demonstrators faced off with police officers near an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office. You can see those San Francisco officers in tactical gear moving in to clear the crowd. Police declared this protest an unlawful assembly. By that point, there were about 200 people in the crowd. A reporter spotted at least one arrest and saw some storefront windows smashed in. This protest was over by about 9 o'clock tonight. And tonight we're hearing from California's Lieutenant Governor. She says California is planning to sue over President Trump's deployment of the National Guard.
It's deeply concerning that he is attempting to rile people up in this way. And the governor, I think you reported already, has asked him to return control of the National Guard back to him. And I believe that we are likely going to see a lawsuit.
In addition to those National Guard members, we're also learning that 500 active duty Marines are also prepared to deploy. The U.S. Northern Command says they're stationed at 29 Palms, which is about 125 miles east of Los Angeles. Today, the president talked about how he will decide whether to send those U.S. Marines to the streets of Los Angeles.
As far as what I think it is, I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
We will continue to follow the breaking news in Los Angeles as people continue to protest the ICE raids and the deployment of the National Guard. You can get updates on air and on KCRA.com.